Hello? Hello? Okay. Let's see here. All right, students, I think that my mic is working okay. I hope. You should see on your screen right now um, the main page of your course. And I'm gonna basically be talking about week 7 and 8 in the course, and directing you to a few things here. So let's go into modules. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to week 7. And this morning I went ahead and I put um, the lab requirement video in week 7. Okay, you can see it right there. This is like a 10, I don't remember how long it is, but it's a basically a video about what's expected in the lab reports. I think most of you have watched it already, but I wanted to put it here again just in case somebody needed to review. Because I'm not going to go over the lab report requirements and the rubric again, since you can just watch this other video. But it is there in week 7. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to talk about the week 7 lab, first of all, because this lab is kind of different from some of the other labs that you've done. It's a quite an extensive lab. There's some graphing that has to be done and everything, but I'm going to show you how all that will be done for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the procedure. And here is the procedure for the lab. This lab, it's actually lab 7. They just switched lab 7 and 8 on us a term ago, and this has not been changed. I've got to request that to be changed. I can't directly change it, but it doesn't matter. It's week 7 lab now. All right, you're doing some spectrophotometry work, and you're going to be using nickel chloride, which is a green solution, as the substance that you're going to be reading from. All right, so I just want to kind of go through what's expected in the various parts of the lab report. You remember the first section is the introduction, and that's going to be like a summary of the background of the lab. So I just want to show you that there's a lot of stuff in this particular lab that needs to go in the introduction. Number one, the learning goals, right? Those are the objectives for the lab. So those need to go in there. You can just summarize that. You don't need to like list them all out. Okay, and let's see. So it kind of tells you what you're going to be doing. All right. So in the background, it talks about visible light. So I would like you to kind of summarize what visible light is and why it's seen and kind of where on the spectrum the visible light occurs. It occurs between 400 and about 750 nanometers. Okay, and there's various colors. You can see those. Just briefly kind of summarize what it says here about that. And then also you're going to also summarize what spectroscopy is. So you have to read through this section. You do probably need to talk about this wavelength max. That's something you're going to be finding. And so you do need to kind of discuss what that means. And then yeah, okay, so you're going to be finding wavelength max. Okay, let's see. I think that's pretty much, yeah, that is everything that needs to be in your introduction. So you can see that the introduction is going to include some quite a bit of stuff this week, right? You're going to be talking about spectroscopy and visible light. All right. And then the procedure also is quite extensive. But again, in the methods and materials section of the lab, you would want to summarize the procedure. All right. And it's kind of given throughout here, but summarize it the best you can. Okay, but as you go through the procedure, it's also going to tell you to calculate some things. So, yeah, you're going to be doing you're going to be drawing some curves and some lines and all kinds of stuff here. All right. I'm not going to go through what that procedure is, but I'm going to show you how you can have these graphs drawn for you. So let's go back to the modules again, and I'm going to go one step up to where it says lab data, and I'm going to open that up. Okay. So in the lab, you are asked to find the maximum wavelength. So what you're going to do is you'll see how to do this once you start it, but you're going to set your wavelengths at various levels. 780, go down to 760, all the way down. It tells you to go down to 380. And somewhere in here, you're going to find an absorbance that's maximum somewhere in the middle here. And so what you're going to do then is you are going to come over here and narrow the spectrum. So let's say, I'm not going to give you the answer here. Let's say that between 560 and 660 somewhere is the maximum absorbance here, which would give you your maximum wavelength. So you would go over here and just measure 620 or 630, whatever, all the way up through that area. And you should find the maximum value here. So you're just going to narrow this down a little bit. And then that maximum value you will find. All right. Now, once you plug all the numbers in to these tables, you will have some graphs made. Okay, so it's gonna go ahead and plot your absorbance versus the wavelengths here, and you're going to find your maximum. This is going to be your graph for that. It should do that automatically for you once you fill in the values and you hit enter. All right, then so the maximum wavelength is going to be whatever. You would want to write that in. Okay, then in part 2, you are going to go ahead and set the wavelength at that maximum wavelength. You're going to then vary the concentration at that wavelength. And the instructions tell you what to do here. But you're going to fill in the concentrations, and you're going to measure, again, the absorbance that you get through the spectrophotometer. And so you'd vary through all the concentrations that the instructions tell you to do. You would put in the absorbances at each level, hit enter, and again, this thing is going to graph this for you. And it's also going to tell you this R-squared value, which you are asked for. All right, and then up here, it should give you the equation of the line, because you are asked for that too. All right, you're given R-squared and the slope of the line. So if you don't know how to find the equation of a line, remember that y equals mx plus b, and where m is the slope, and you're actually kind of starting at 0 here, so your b value is going to be pretty much 0. All right, so you're going to do this graph will automatically form, and then you're going to be given the slope. So from that slope, you can find the equation of the line. All right, so there's some data that you're going to have to insert into your lab. Like I said, once you put in all the numbers in your tables and hit enter, the graph should form for you. This one's going to be a line. This one up here at the top, the other one we were doing is going to be a bell curve. All right. So again, let's go back to the modules again. And let me show, I'm going to go back into the procedure one more time here for this lab. And I'm going to scroll way down to kind of the bottom, because the goal of the lab is to basically fill in this table. Once you know the equations of the lines, then you can plug in the concentration and find the absorbance, or vice versa. So you're going to go ahead and use the equation of your line to find the missing thing here. All right, so you would just, and you need to show your work too, your calculations here. That's kind of the goal of the entire lab, is to find the relationship between the concentration and the absorbance at that maximum wavelength. All right, so there's this also would go in your data section. And then of course, as always, you would write your discussion that would like summarize the lab and tell us what you learned about the relationship between concentration and absorbance and that kind of thing. You need to discuss all of that in the discussion part. Hi Josie, I just noticed you came in. Welcome. If you have a question, just ask, okay? You should have a microphone available. All right, let me go back now to modules. And I should have just gone back. Okay, so there is the information about the week 7 laboratory. You would, to do the lab, you would click on this simulation here, and you would go through the lab here. The instructions tell you what to do, but here's the lab you're going to go through. And then, of course, you would submit your lab where it says week 7 lab submission. That's where you would submit it once you're done. Okay, once I'm done with this Zoom session, I will replace this with the link for our recording here. All right, so a couple of things I want to talk about is the week 8 deadline information, and you're going to have to go through a little quiz to verify that you understand the week 8 due dates. And I'm going to show you what they are. Just a second. I need to move you, Josie. You're kind of right in the way here. Hang on a second. Okay, I want to go to build. Now I can move you back. All right, so here are the deadlines for week 8. It's a little bit different than the other weeks. Not so much, but a little bit different. And you must take this quiz, and the quiz is basically just going to ask you, have you reviewed the due dates and do you agree to them? So once you say yes on that, you're going to be able to open a week 8 the week 8 work. But this also is a promise to me as your instructor that you're not going to ask for extra time, that you understand the due dates and that they are firm. All right, so the discussions are basically the same as they always are. Your first post for the Unit 8 or the Week 8 discussion is due on Wednesday, like always. The final posts are due on Sunday, like always. So the discussions are exactly the same as usual. However, you are being given a little bit of extra time for the final exam, the homework, and the lab report in Unit 8. All 3 of those are due on Tuesday morning. Please, everybody notice, 9 a.m., not 9 p.m., 9 a.m. And believe it or not, I have students who turn like their lab report in at 8:55 a.m. I guess they stayed up all night to do it. I highly recommend, since you're given some extra time, go ahead and do this stuff early. At least start it early. Do your homework early, and then start your lab report early so that you can ask questions. It is kind of a difficult lab. It's probably the hardest one we've had because you've got to do all those graphs and everything. So, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. Never mind. Lab report 8 is not that. Excuse me. I apologize. I'm mixing that up. I'm going to show you lab 8 in a minute. All right, but anyways, all of that is due on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Then you would go down here and click yes, I affirm, and then you would go ahead and be able, once you click that and hit submit, then you'll be able to open up week 8. Okay, so let's go back because I do want to do a couple of things in week 8. Week 8's, got the same old things, the problem set. You have a final exam in week 8, and then you've got your lab. Okay, I want to mention the lab first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the final exam. Do you all remember the Unit 2 lab where you went through a simulation and you kind of just went through a quiz and you filled in answers in a quiz? that is what you're doing here. Excuse my dog is having a little owie. I don't know what she's licking her foot and it's sore. Sorry about the noise. Um, so yeah, so what you're going to do here is you're going to open this up. Let me go ahead and click on that. And you'll see. All right, it's a quiz, right? And you're going to go ahead and open this up and then follow. It's going to tell you during this quiz, just like it did back in week 2, it's going to tell you to open up a particular simulation. And you've got 2 of them here, wave on a string and wave interference. So this thing will tell you, open up the wave on a string and do this, this, and this, and answer these questions, and you'll go through an answer. I actually go through and grade these very carefully. It takes me 10 to 15 minutes per student to grade these. So I usually grade them as they come in. That way I don't have a whole bunch of them to grade on one day. But you do need to answer the questions thoroughly and keep, read the instructions. For example, if it says use 5 to 10 sentences, I'm expecting good sentences, not like 5 little short sentences that could have been combined into 2. I want you to really talk about whatever they're asking about. All right, so your lab is pretty straightforward, but I don't know if you remember that lab 2 probably took a lot longer than you thought it was going to. You thought it was going to be real simple and just go through and answer questions. Well, it's not as simple as that. I'm guessing it's going to take 3 hours, 4 hours maybe if you do a good job on it. You can keep working on it all week. You can start on it and then come back to it. It doesn't close up if you stop and then go back. So I recommend starting that as early in the week as you can so that you're not rushing to finish it up at 8:55 a.m. on Tuesday, right? That's not fun for you or for me. All right, so there's the lab. But I also want to show you the final exam. Let's just kind of show you what this means. I think I might have to go in. Yeah, I do. Never mind. I got to go into build for you to look at that. Hang on a second. Final exam. And again, Josie is kind of in the way here, but build. No, wait. Okay, let's just click on. No, that's not it. Usually build would do it, but okay, let me go in there. Let's go ahead and preview. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, here's what I wanted to show you. The final exam has 20 questions, and you have 80 minutes to complete it. So that's an hour and 20 minutes. So, as I've mentioned before, if like when I talked about the quizzes, go into a quiet room and shut the door and tell spouses and kids and animals that you're busy for an hour and a half and to leave you alone, please, so that you can work on this and not be interrupted. I also recommend leaving your phone out of the room too, so you're not distracted by that. Okay, so once you start this final, you must complete it. So, just keep in mind that this is a timed exam and you have to sit there for the 80 minutes or however long and complete it. All right. If you go over that 80 minutes, the final will automatically close and everything you've done will be recorded, and then anything you didn't do will receive zeros when I go in and look at it. Okay, now one thing I want to mention is I highly recommend that as you go through your final, you write down the answers to each question, or open up a Word file or something and write out your answers. So that you know what you were going to write in the final exam. Also, I didn't mention this in the lab. for this week. You might want to do that too. You might want to write down copy and paste all your answers into a Word document so that if something happens and you are unable to get back into your lab, you have all the answers copied and pasted and you can just copy and paste those. But for the final, I would write down all the answers because if something happens, there's no way for me to just let you continue. Like, for example, let's say your internet goes out for some reason and you were in the middle of your final. Let's say you'd done 13 questions, you had 7 more to do. All right, and you're kind of freaking out because it's not letting you get back in. Well, it's not going to let you get back in. That's a fact. What I have to do is reset the entire final for you, which means you have to start over. So, like I said, copy and paste your answers into a Word document or write them down somewhere so that you don't have to redo all of the questions on the final. You will be able to fill in the ones that you already did and just then continue and finish the 7 that you didn't do, if that makes sense. But if something like that happens and you lose your internet or whatever, your exam is interrupted for some reason. I mean, there's all kinds of your cat could jump on your computer. My cats do that to me all the time, and I have had to reboot my computer because they mess things up so bad. Something like that happens. Email me immediately when you have access to your computer again and then I can go in and restart the final for you. You will have to start over, but if you have all your answers copied and pasted, then that's fine. And then you will be able to review the exam after the due date, which remember is 9 a.m. on Tuesday. All right, and then of course you have to adhere to the honor code. Everybody at GMC knows this, right? You should not be getting answers from somebody else. You should be doing all of your own work, that kind of thing. All right, and then I'm not going to show you the questions because that would be cheating, right? All right, so there's the final exam. I think that was everything that I wanted to talk about. Yes, because I talked about the last 2 lab reports and the the deadlines for week 8, and then I talked about the final exam. Yep, that's it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our Zoom room. Okay, Josie and Hamid, thank you for attending. I didn't hear either of you talking. Did either of you have any questions before I close this out? Go ahead, ask, please.
How are we going to do the lab report for week 7?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How are we going to do the lab report for week 7?
Okay. So what's your question? Hello, Hamid?
How are we going to do the lab report for week 7?
Yeah, you're going to do the lab report? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How are we going to do it?
How are you going to do it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, which one? Are you talking about lab 7 or 8?
Lab 7?
Okay, lab 7. Yeah, lab 7, you're going to go ahead and I went through this. Maybe you didn't come in time. But I went through that at the beginning of this. What you're doing is you're going to click on the procedure, click on that, and then download the procedure, right? That's going to give you the steps you're going to go through to do the lab. And then right above that, there is a lab data thing. And you would want to open that up and download that as well, because that is you've got some tables you're going to fill in. And those tables, once you fill the tables in and you hit enter, it's going to graph those things for you. You don't have to do the graphs. It's going to graph them for you. And so you would include that in your data section. Does that make sense?
Okay. I watched the video after connection.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that part of this session, I am going to put this on YouTube in just a few minutes when I stop it. And
Okay.
I will put the link in week 7 for this whole session, and you could rewatch that because I went through for like 10 minutes basically on what to do for lab 7.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks.
you're welcome. All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and give me an hour or so, and I'll have this up, this video up and running for you to watch.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.